about his company and a solution that you as an agent can bring to some of these sellers when the issue is how the property looks.
Thank you. How's everybody? Great. I tell you what, after hearing Horace and Amy, I'm fired up, and that was really awesome. So thanks for all the knowledge and the time you guys put into that. It's incredible. So first of all, I am a real estate agent, just full disclosure. Been in the industry for about 16 years. Seen a lot of interesting things take place. I think that there's been some disruptions, and a lot of times we can view those disruptions as negative, but you know, hopefully we can find some things today that actually turn it into a positive for us. As Horace said, iBuyers probably aren't going away anytime soon. And with that knowledge, we have decided to take an approach that comes alongside you guys. So I did say that I'm a real estate agent. I have tried to just put that aside and put that on the shelf just so you guys know. So I am in no way going to ever be trying to compete with you guys, but I hopefully will be an advocate for you. The whole iBuyer phenomenon is definitely putting wrinkles into what we're trying to do as agents, right? And creating some unexpected headaches and things like that. But what I felt like with UpSell, what we were able to create and come up with was something that you know, we were able to update the properties for you and get the houses on the market that have maybe deferred maintenance, or maybe they were built in a time period where darks and browns and tans and things like that were prevalent, and now we're in the grays and the whites and the modern farmhouses and things like that. So the whole entire approach and goal is to get you updated and get you ready to go onto the market, helping you sell the property for higher and quicker. You know, we have an approach where we want to go after the 80%, okay? There's going to be fringe, you know, people that like certain things. That 20%, that's not who we're going to target. And so I think as agents, you know, we'd rather have an attractive piece that's attractive to 80% of the folks, and that's what we're going to try and do. The way that it works is this. You have a home, you go in, maybe it's for a listing appointment, maybe you already have the listing, and you say, you've been telling the homeowner all along, right? Hey, we need to do some updates, we need to do some updates, because you're out, you're about, you see the things that are selling, the houses that maybe when you're working with your buyers, they're just flying off the shelf, right? And you're looking at this house and you're saying, great bones, this house would be incredible, we just need to do some updates. And maybe for, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna set this down. I'm just gonna talk, so that thing doesn't attack me. All right, that's better, that's way better. Anyway, so you've been talking with your client and encouraging them, hey, let's do these updates, let's do the things that make a lot of sense. And maybe they're just giving you pushback. And a lot of times folks won't give you the real reason, right? Most of the time, they just don't have the money budgeted to put in to those things that are needed or incredibly useful. But they're going to keep us at bay a little bit as agents, which is, you know, is understandable. It's human nature. But what we want to do is come alongside you, equip you with an opportunity where we come in with one of our interior designers, and we look at the house and we script it out and we say, hey, here are the things that we think need to happen, okay? And all of those punch items, a lot of it's cosmetic or more trending type of things. Some of it's trust issues, okay? So what's worse than going through the entire process, spending all the money and the time and the effort of getting a house under contract, right? And then here comes the inspection report, and you just get hammered on certain key items, right? And now, on the other end of it, the buyer is sitting there looking at it, and they don't know if they trust the house anymore. And so now they've lost favor in the house and lost interest in the house, and now you're right back in the whole entire sales cycle again. Happens all the time, and it's probably happened to you guys. So we take and we look at this through different lenses. We want to try and get out in front of and address these certain aspects, trust points within the home. Make sure that when an inspection report comes up, if it's something that's viable and something that we can take care of up front, we handle it. Take care of all the cosmetic things. Update the look and the feel of the home. Maybe it's paint, maybe it's new granite, maybe it's updating the kitchen or the bathroom, those types of things. So our interior designers come in and they just kind of cast the vision for all of that. They take that information back and we begin to create the pricing around that and come up with what it would cost to do all of those things. If the pricing is agreeable to everyone, then at that point we can start the project and take care of everything. And then once the home has sold, then of course we get paid at that point. That way it eliminates the headaches and the difficulty of coming up with money at the time that you're encouraging your homeowner to do all of these things. So what I like to say is we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're telling you what we think needs to be done. We're not going overboard. Once again, we're trying to focus on the 80% of people out there and what they find attractive and go and lean into that, okay? And so then, by us being willing to defer our payment on the work that we've done, we just feel like that's the best form of partnership, okay? So as an agent, I know a lot of times, and folks that I've talked with, when you mention to a homeowner, hey, let's do this, or let's update that, there's kind of that fine line of, the seller feeling like you're spending their money, I guess, for lack of a better term. But by bringing in an expert like ourselves, you kind of get to sit on the sideline of that. You still get the principal result of what you were going for, but you've brought in someone with a separate set of eyes, one that's gifted in the area of doing the right things. Another common mistake is to go in, do updates, spend money, and then nothing happens. The home doesn't sell. And you would be amazed, and I'm sure you guys have seen this over and over again, where folks have done that, but they've put the money into the wrong things, which is kind of discouraging, I guess, for a homeowner. They're trying to make the right moves, and then that doesn't yield the sell. Another thing that I feel like we are very beneficial to you, once again, trying to be helpful to you as an agent, is you're not having to GC projects. How many of you have to try and put together a sell of put your painter on a project and just pulled everything together and spent lots of extra time just to make the deal work, and then you still got paid the commission, nothing more, right? So you had all the extra effort, you had all the extra headaches, and quite frankly, now you've opened yourself up for some scrutiny and some liability if something is not quite right because you kind of manned the post of being a GC. So we're able to just basically free up your time, okay? You can have more time to be out showing other clients' properties, or going on listing appointments and things like that, and just know that we've got your back and we have your best interest at heart. So if I was in an elevator and we started talking about this, I would just say we update the home and we get paid when we sell, and then all you've got to do is field all the phone calls, and we'll take care of all of the work that goes into it and everything that happens in between the updating and the selling. That's basically it. I know we're on a little bit of a tight timeline, so I wanted to just kind of get to the point where, I thought there might be some questions. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I know the answer already because I talked to John Bohannon, but I figured most of us are probably going to know.
Okay.
What happens if the house doesn't sell?
Great question.
How do you get paid?
Yep, so what we do, we give you 6 months to sell. We are not in the market of being a bank, but at the same rate. The price is what it is. When we when we quote the price and we do the work. But if it goes beyond 6 months, you have options. I guess you could do a HELOC, or do something creative like that, or put it on a credit card, or pull from savings. Or the last thing is we actually will charge 18% interest only, a little less than a Home Depot credit card. That's not what we want to do, but we want to give stepping stones and options and flexibility the best that we can. Our goal is obviously to get the home sold as quickly as possible and get our money back as fast as we can. And the track record has been great on that. So we don't have to really worry about the 6-month piece, per se, but it's in place if needed. Good question.
Okay.
Do you leave the house?
Say it again.
Do you leave the house?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mechanics.
You have
Good
before and
question.
after pictures?
Say that again.
You have a site with your before and afters?
Ask that a different way. I'm sorry.
Your
When
work.
you do projects,
Do you have before and after pictures?
before and
Yes.
after pictures,
Yes,
is
ma'am.
that on your site?
There are some. Yes.
Okay.
What is your minimum? I spoke with another company recently, and they had a minimum project that they would do.
Yeah. So typically, it's going to be $10,000 is kind of the starting point. It's kind of a range of $10,000 to $50,000. We're open on really on both sides of that. We don't want to be a company of no. We try to be as flexible as possible. And so if it makes sense and there's certain things that we can do strategically and it comes in less than that, then definitely let's kind of play it out. Okay, because a lot of times you're not going to know. Is it 5,000 or is it 9,000? If you're not skilled in the pricing. So that's how I would answer that.
Tori is going to be here to speak briefly at the beginning of the next session, and he and his crew are outside for more specific questions. But just a great solution for some of our sellers when they feel like their house has some deferred maintenance or so forth or so on and can't compete for the price. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you. Okay, now very briefly. So now we know what the issue is. We know what our competition is doing. We know what to look out for the contracts, and that makes us want to go find another job. But now something that we all have to deal with. What is an appraiser going to say about the house? And how is this iBuyer disruption? I think that's the politically correct way of addressing this topic. How is that, Scott, affecting appraisals? So again, Scott is going to talk a little bit about appraisals. He is also going to speak after the lunch break. So I know some of you are not able to come back, but hopefully you will because we have more information. For CE credit on your way out, please make sure to initial out. But don't sneak out because we need to hear from Scott. And if you are not familiar with DSMurphy, you need to be.
Thanks, Dana. All right, I know I'm the only thing between you and lunch, but let me just talk a little bit about how the iBuyers are affecting the market. You might wonder, when that iBuyer comes in, purchases the property below market value, is that going to kill values in my neighborhood? The initial answer is no, not at that point, because the iBuyer purchase, the initial purchase, is what we consider a non-arm's length transaction. You've got a willing buyer, willing seller, but the property wasn't adequately exposed to the market, and they're buying it under very specific conditions, which aren't traditional sales conditions. So the initial purchase, although it gets recorded, is something that the appraiser does not use. One thing that I'm not sure that they've even thought about or how it's going to play out, but our friend Zillow and their Zillow's estimate, they work off of all transactions that are out there. So all these iBuyer transactions are being churned into their algorithms and may cause futures estimates to be lower. So I'm not sure how that'll play out. But the subsequent sale, when the iBuyer puts it back on the market and sells it, can be considered an arm's length transaction, but most good appraisers should know that there should be a little asterisk next to it. Because again, that iBuyer seller is not a typical homeowner. And while they're profit driven, they have other things that drive what they're willing to sell the price for. They may simply be at the end of a quarter, need to liquidate properties, and they sell it at a loss because they're making it up on another property. Very similar to a relocation sale, which as appraisers, we don't often put as much weight on those either. So keep that in mind. Well, since we were talking about our friend Zillow, the Zillow's estimate, we do have to be watchful of that, as was said earlier in the presentation. Every buyer's looking at that. If your estimate for your seller is below what you feel it's worth, go back, work with Zillow. There's ways to turn in additional data and get that estimate amended. What I have to say about Zillow is Zillow's not always high, it's not always low, it's just always wrong. Okay? And you're welcome to quote that. What is the problem with Zillow? And as Horan said earlier, there is no way that appraisers or good real estate agents are ever going to be replaced from the valuation standpoint. There's no way that Zillow is ever going to be able to get accurate enough, particularly, and this is a good thing for us in our market, we have horrible tax record data. So that is one very good insulator between us and Zillow, because they can't come up with good numbers. Where does Zillow get their data from? Tax records. Tax records data is notoriously incorrect. Even the lot size is wrong as much as 20% of the time. So you can't even rely on that. So, you know, many of you may be aware that appraisers have our own database, because many years ago we got to the point where we're like, we can't rely on tax data. Let's share our physical data. No one's ever sharing no one's ever sharing appraised values. But we have a database, it used to be called RedLink, it's called ComFlow now. So I can go in and I can get very accurate data on square footages, above grade, below grade, room count, all that, compiled by other appraisers. So what if Zillow got a hold of that? As a matter of fact, you know, the big data giant out there, CoreLogic, bought up RedLink, and they basically ran it into the ground. So fortunately, another appraiser who got out of the appraisal business because he was so frustrated, had a tech background, built ComFlow, which is the replacement now for RedLink. So he's been able to revitalize that and bring that back. So what if Zillow had access to that? Is that answer solved? No, Zillow still doesn't know locational influences, quality, condition, all those things that are so important to the true valuation of a property. So while you need to be watchful of Zillow, caution your clients that that is not the value of their home, that you can show them the comparables, you can do an adequate CMA. One of the other solutions to this problem that we're talking about today is what we've put together is what we call a consultation appraisal. Have us come out at the time that you're listing the property and make this a very good value proposition that, look, I am different than other agents. I want to bring in someone who's going to help us make sure that we're not leaving money on the table, that we can work with someone like Tori at UpSell to make sure that we can capture any additional equity that's available in the house and put it to use and make sure we know what this property is truly worth. So when we get offers in, we can negotiate with power. And most importantly, part of our value proposition is that in the end, when that bank appraiser comes out, you hand him our appraisal, he's then put on notice that you hired a professional, and if their appraisal for the bank comes in low, we will immediately step in within 24 hours and give you a rebuttal letter back. And we win 99% of the time. So that's very important. It's almost like an insurance policy, if you will, because there's a lot of appraisers out there, unfortunately, who don't truly understand what their job is. You know, our job as appraisers, we don't determine market value. We interpret market value. It's your buyers and sellers that are determining market value. So if you've got a well-exposed property with a willing buyer, willing seller, all of that goes into the definition of market value, you should not have an appraisal issue. Do you know the one issue that I see that's wrong on the majority of the bad or low appraisals is the appraisers don't take the necessary steps to adequately take into consideration appreciation. Aren't properties appreciating in our market? Yes, we would all as appraisers love to use a comp that sold, all my comps that sold within the last few weeks, but that's just not possible. I may have to use one 6-8 months ago, but I darn well better give additional value, give appreciation for that change in the market that's happened since that prior sale. So I've got lots of additional information for you. I will be back after the break. If you do need to leave, and have any other questions, I'll be here before I leave for lunch. But I hope you've gotten a lot out of this today, and I look forward to seeing what we have this
Are you
afternoon.
still doing the charitable contribution for that?
Yes,
organization?
yes.
So Scott does a really awesome thing for those consultation appraisals for you guys as agents when you're listing the property.
Yes, when you're listing the property, the consultation appraisal. Yes, yes. So if someone, we give a donation to charity too when you're doing our consultation appraisal based on the volume of appraisals that come in that month. So, and also if you're interested in more appraisal related topics and what have you, and want more to learn more about appraisals, we teach our classes through Dana's school, and she's more than happy to come and sign up for those. So, great.
What do they start at price-wise?
We try to keep it pretty stable at $425 up until about $750,000, or if it gets complex. So well worth it for your seller to know what this property is worth. All right.
Any other questions?
Great. All right. Thank you.
Scott will be back to present more information after lunch. I want to thank you guys so much. What great information. We please initial out if you are taking this for CE credit. We wanted to leave everybody plenty of time with traffic flow, and if you're not familiar with the area, to grab lunch. So it's just a little bit after 12 now. Please be back. We will start back at 1:30 p.m. Our speakers are all still here to answer your questions. And I thank you guys so much for your time and attention, and we'll see you at 1:30.